will kill it!
Let the rage of Sparta fuel your blade.
Consumed by rage like Hades flames to a cursed soul. Smirking foes with words and flows inspired by hurt and woes. This is the sound of vengeance, retribution for struggles and grief that was never ending. I watched everything I cared about turn to ashes, gazing over the edge where I hope to end the madness. I cried Poseidon's tears over the death of Aphrodite. Heard a partridge took any hope that I had inside me. Father betrayed me when he abandoned me. That's when I set forth on a mission for anarchy. I pledged my life for a pen and a sheet of paper and used them to scribe victory over my enslaver. Now my only battle is to cease the grief and anger. Ghost of my past life haunting me as I fall asleep. From the other side, the dead call to me. What they want from me, my downfall is all they want to see.
Yeah. All right, Shit Post Boys podcast. I said it this time without fucking it up. I don't think we're gonna number. I don't think we're gonna number this episode. I don't think we're gonna number any of the episodes. That's something I established on the prior recording.
Got it.
Either way, I am Kilo. I am here. I am present. I am living in the moment. Pray for me. Pray that I will live for the next moment. Because nothing is guaranteed in 2020. Nothing is fucking guaranteed.
Nothing is guaranteed. This your boy Bobby Szechuan on Twitter, Bobby Szechuan on Instagram. I'm currently living, I think. 2020 is a wild year, man.
If ever there was a time that theory of, life is a simulation,
man.
if hypothetically life is a simulation, somebody turned up all the difficulty meters and we just been fucked ever since.
We are playing on all Madden right now.
Niggas are playing on insane mode, and it's like, bro, please.
This is like a veteran right now on Call of Duty. Like, this is hardcore. Like, this is like one shot you out. Nobody is safe right now. Huey got killed, bro. Pop lock and drop it man himself got killed. Nobody is safe. Hurricane Chris almost beat a murder charge. He got himself out of jail.
One of these days, we really got to talk about like how dangerous it is to be a rapper.
Oh no, for sure.
Compared to like any other kind of music artist. Not on this episode. I don't want to get into depressing shit on this episode, honestly.
Oh yeah, no. Okay, so then.
But you are free to talk about whatever you want. I'm here to provide the platform.
I understand. No, so I was thinking about this the other day, about how like you don't see country stars in the news getting arrested on like gun charges and like weed charges. Like Willie Nelson, I'm sure has a grow op on his trailer, and that man is free to go wherever he pleases. But same with Snoop. So I can't say it. It's just once you reach a certain level.
Yeah, I mean, because I was about to say like Burner is like one of the weed kings currently as it stands.
Oh, for sure. Like I just drove past
by all legitimate means. Yeah.
Yeah, the cookie store is booming right now.
Shout out to Cookies. So shout out to Burner. Shout out to Burner finally really starting to get his flowers. There's a lot of people who are starting to get their flowers really. That's been working
and
like underground for a long time.
The thing about Burner is that Burner getting so much hate, but Burner to me like with any cannabis you're gonna get like some bad batches and stuff like that, but they're usually typically pretty quick to recall it if it's a bad batch. I just got
beyond that the professionalism that's involved in all of this. The professionalism that's involved in everything that Cookie stands for has been kind of the iconic part. Forget whether or not the weed is good or overpriced. The level of professionalism, the importance of normalizing it in the culture and in a way that's real. It's not just like, oh, I'm a rapper who smokes weed. It's like I'm a businessman who is consistently opening retail spaces specifically for marijuana, recreational, and medical. On top of that, I mean, it's great. It's great to see. It's great to see something that we've been asking for a long time in terms of like, okay, this is circa 2000 when Bush was elected, and all the Christians were on the. I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but a lot of its constituency made a lot of things very apparent in that era, especially after 9/11, as far as Christian identity and values and things of that nature. And it's good to see a lot of things get turned on their head, whether for better or worse, in a space where there's a history of exclusion from the mainstream. Like stoner and weed culture itself has always kind of been on the fringe. It's always been a part of the fabric, but it's always been on the fringe. And as a consequence of people really, really fighting like behind the scenes and in legal spaces, we have a situation where it's like, okay, one of the biggest chains or one of the biggest companies that's really doing it is somebody from the hip hop culture, from the West Coast, who was deeply ingrained in that culture, who was partnering with other people in that culture who are black, and showing respect. Yeah, shout out Trick. And they're showing, that it's a different side to that. Like a lot of people don't get that rap is kind of like wrestling. A lot of the imagery and a lot of the things deemed negative or toxic about it are not the end all be all. These people still go home to their families at night.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, I kind of distracted. I got us off track, but go ahead with what you were trying to get across. I just wanted to make sure I got that out before I forgot about it.
You understood. I just think I forgot what I was even about to say, but that kind of sheds light on what I think. Oh, that's what I want to talk about: the importance of cannabis in as far as recreationally and medicinally. Prime example: I recently was hungover Saturday, going into Sunday. So Sunday I was pretty much dead to the world. Like between 12 a.m. and 7 a.m. I was sick. But I will say the cannabis prevented me from having a headache. It prevented me from being too sore from throwing up or whatever. But it also prevented me from being too nauseated. You know what I'm saying? So it's like cannabis in its flower form has many uses for that. But just overall, like I really appreciate how a lot of these people of all nationalities and all races, all cultures are coming together around cannabis because of just how beneficial it is just for not just for like humans but animals too. I've seen dogs and cats get CBD treatments to help with their anxieties when fireworks and stuff like that happen. So I think this is really one of those things that pretty soon we're going to see full recreationalized across the board in the United States, and hopefully decriminalized across the board federally, so that way we can have more stores opened up. Like there are a few recreational shops in Hazel Park, in Allen Park, Ypsi, Ann Arbor, but we need one in Detroit, which we have these shops, these coffee shops around the city.
That's why it's important for, before we even get off that topic, that's why it's important for everybody to get out there and vote locally. Like, it's not a guarantee that we can influence the federal decisions about this sort of stuff, but working on a local level is how you get the shit done. I mean, it makes no sense that Detroit is so far behind and people have to go all the way out to Ann Arbor or way out to the suburbs. And, within an added risk to whatever it is they're trying to do as a consequence of having to go so far from home just to do something that's legal down the block, basically. Like, that's crazy to me. So make sure y'all get out there, get registered to vote. Vote absentee. You don't necessarily have to be in there with everybody else. That's my big fear as well with, like, COVID and everything else. Like, we really need to have a thorough understanding of how the absentee ballot system works and take advantage of that.
I'm not personally a voter, so I have nothing to say, but I agree that when it starts locally.
Even if you're not a voter, you need to vote locally.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that you don't vote as a consequence of some other things, but that's your decision and I respect that.
So at the end of the day, when you do vote locally, you're able to influence bigger and better, hopefully, or at least get it noticed to the point where the constituents and the governor can say, "Oh, okay, this is going on in this area of the state. Well, let me see how this other area of this state feels, and maybe I can make something happen where it goes statewide." But I think at the same time, though, the reason why a lot of people are still kind of like apprehensive about it is because of the stigma of it that's still out there. I mean, you know, people still think about Woodstock being the what is it? The epitome of what a stoner culture is. It's this drug culture, LSD, acid, shrooms, weed, MDMA, ecstasy, stuff like that. They're like, oh, if you let one thing in, you're gonna let everything in. Well, look at a lot of countries that have.
That's interesting because we never really talk about life in that era outside of that as to why that imagery became associated with it, because really when you stop to think about everything that was going on in that era, which is Vietnam, we're in a post Voting Rights Act era where, despite the Voting Rights Act getting passed, there's still all of these municipalities at a local and lower micro level that are cracking down in new and inventive ways, not only on people's ability to vote, but people's ability to just live. Like, it was an act of revolution once upon a time to be in an interracial relationship, which is the complete flip now, because it's like, if you're in an interracial relationship, you're gonna get some grief about it, to put it like that.
You're gonna get a lot of
get a lot of grief about it. But once upon a time, it was considered. Yeah. I'm trying to play it cool, man. That's all I'm trying to do.
All right, I understood.
But yeah, like, especially when you look at the demographics of Woodstock, which was everybody. You know what I'm saying? It was black people, it was white people, it was indigenous peoples, it was people from Europe who had never seen America, who also made that journey during that era of, things radically changing in Germany, and East versus West Europe was on its way out at that point. Like, within the next decade, the wall came down, and things radically changed over there too. Counterculture and how it changes, because the culture always changes in cycles, is always interesting to really actually dig into the meat and observe the why, in terms of the crackdowns on drug culture. At the time, and it seems unheard of now when you think of how people categorize or speak on oppression now compared to then. Like, then it seems we were Nazi goddamn Germany. Like, everything was illegal, bro.
Everything was illegal.
Every little thing that you thought of was illegal. Like, literal homosexual relations were illegal. Like, people could tell on you and you would be thrown in prison or minimally jail.
Thrown in the gulag.
Minimally jail.
You can throw in the gulag.
And that was happening up until about the 70s, 80s in America. Like, we have come a significant ways. And that's not to say we have to stop or everything is good, but for me, as somebody who's a little bit older than like the YouTube generation, who's slightly older than the YouTube generation, where a lot of things started getting learned and a lot of conspiracy theories started to proliferate in a post 2006 or so era, where you get all the conspiracy theories, all the memes, all the things that we know the internet to be now, kind of started in that shortly after Bush was elected, shortly after 9/11 world. And I would say that was really the start of like a tremendous culture shift that we're seeing the aftershocks of today, that are slowly but surely changing.
Yeah, and I would definitely argue that, to say, not argue, but I would agree with you on that, to say, like, you do notice a big shift every 20 years almost in this country. Like the 60s were the big shift, the 80s was a big shift, the 2000s was a big shift, the 2020s.
Yeah,
so
we're
far.
always changing, but as a consequence of technology, we're changing at a rate that I think we can't keep up with. Because now it's like there's new information every single second. And if you're not aware of that new information every 60 seconds, you're effectively just not even you're not having the same conversation everyone else is having.
Right.
And we don't have a nightly news that kind of guides the hand of what the culture is. We don't have a centralized source of information where it's like, okay, this is what it is, and we all don't know until 10 o'clock the next night, 8 o'clock the next night, whenever primetime news comes on. Now it's like, okay, we found out XYZ did this, this, and this at 8 a.m. By 12 p.m., it's a totally different story. By 2 p.m., some new shit pops off, and it's a totally different story. 10 o'clock that night, they finally made a response to it. Story is totally different than it was at 8 a.m.
Yeah. I mean, because think about if we had, like, what we have access to now back in when 2001 happened, when the Twin Towers were bombed or destroyed, or however you want to put it.
It would have been, well, yeah, yes, but no. Because despite that, we've also had a number of modern tragedies that have negatively been influenced by the fact that people are just saying anything.
Oh yeah, the Pulse Club in Florida, and then the shooting in Vegas. That Definitely. Was like, it was so many people in like the Vegas shooting. Like, they were saying there was 3 other active shooters in the mall.
Yeah, even locally, even if you think about what happened at 12 Oaks, 3 years ago, where there was reports of a mass shooting or reports of a live active shooter, and it was in fact a smash and grab or something like that.
Yeah, I remember
that. And that's, that's how this all can be really dangerous, that we don't really stop to think about sometimes. It's great that we have these channels of communication, but it's also we have to be extremely responsible. We have to be incredibly responsible. I mean, that's kind of the reason that, despite having recorded these previous episodes of the podcast, I want to be very careful about how we're all presented out there.
Yeah.
Like, of course, I still want to laugh at dumb shit. Of course, I still want to laugh at some of the ridiculous shit that we're always posting up. But, like, I don't want to add fuel to the stupid fire.
I can understand that.
Like, even if you look at my history, where it's like, I've been stopped, like, trolling a long time ago, because it was like, okay, no, everybody is trolling now and nobody knows when to stop.
Yeah, and nobody knows when somebody's trolling and when somebody's being actually serious.
Right, and beyond that, it's become so incentivized for people to kind of put you in a position despite not knowing who you are, despite not knowing your history, despite not knowing your character, put you in an awkward position for even saying the truth that they just haven't been up to date on. They're still working off the news that they heard at noon, and you already heard some new shit at 2 p.m., and they're already at your throat because they're still operating off old information.
Man.
Or they had it wrong to begin with. I can't tell you how many, like, arguments that people have tried to start with me about vaccines and the Tuskegee experiments. They have all the facts messed up. You never had the right facts. We can't even have the conversation unless you have the facts. And if you don't have the facts, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're good. The problem with the Tuskegee Airmen is that the facts are all there. Like,
Tuskegee experiments. I got to make sure that we're checking exactly what it is we say. Right. It's Tuskegee experiments in reference to, in reference to syphilis. And, a lot of people are under the impression that the Tuskegee experiment was injecting people with syphilis, but in fact, it was simply telling people who already had syphilis that they were being given a treatment for it, but it was placebos. So they allowed these people to have untreated syphilis for 40 years, even after they actually had penicillin about 10, 15 years later.
Right. So it wasn't.
So it was 20 years of a cure, and then 20 years later, 20 years after the cure is found, you're still giving these people the idea that, they're giving people the idea that there is no cure and that they've been treated already, or they've been taking the proper treatments. So that's the extra sinister level to that particular thing. But no, there was no persons injected with syphilis.
I mean, but that makes sense though when you think about how doctors make stuff. Like, they can't tell them like, no, there is no cure. They can't tell them like, yeah, there's a cure, but I'm not giving you this cure. We're just gonna try this out real quick to see if it works.
Well, that's the thing. This particular trial was doctors who knew that there was no cure and knew that these people had no way of knowing better, but also never told them, even after a cure was found, that there is a cure.
I got you.
That's insane, because that was the experiment. The experiment was to study the effects of untreated syphilis over a long period of time and to see if placebos in some way, shape, or form would trick these people mentally, because obviously the placebo effect, trick these people into thinking that they were better if the symptoms subsided or things of that nature. But as a consequence, they spread syphilis to like their children who were born because they had untreated syphilis. They spread it within the community as a consequence of just, adult shit. And like that's really fucked up, but that's not the same thing as what the narrative has been sold to people as. It's not any less evil, but it's very important. It's very important to keep that in mind when you're if you are anti-vax, or if you know somebody who is anti-vax, and that is like the crux of your reasoning. It's not a thing. That it didn't happen that way. And unfortunately, as a consequence of that era, and it's a blessing now that we can get updates in real time from like experts that will be like, no, that information is wrong, because people there was numerous examples of people completely. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
There's numerous examples of people really believing, a lot of the false news that got reported of there being, in Alabama, they injected people with syphilis. If this is 1970 and the newspaper is the only way that you know how everything is working in the world outside of your particular city or town, you're going to carry that for the rest of your life probably.
Oh, for sure.
And, people weren't necessarily big on retractions, and while there was more information presented, people who have been stuck in their ways about something for an extended period of time don't tend to just up and change their mind.
Oh, they do not at all.
So, it's a very dangerous game. As far as information, that's a big part of not only just culture in society, but it's a big part of war for that same reason. You poison the well in the enemy territory with propaganda. It can be an incredible tool. That's what you see today with Iran is issuing an arrest warrant for Trump. First of all, you can't issue a warrant for a president. You should know that despite
that's not how it works.
Right. You should know that despite how you may feel about this, it's head ass. On a global scale, it's a head ass move. It's a symbolic thing. It's the same thing as burning a statue or burning dummy with a Trump wig on. That's essentially what this is. It's pointless. Now,
I mean,
if he is in some way, shape, or form indicted by the U.S. after he gets out of office, there is a very slim chance he could be extradited if this is actually really a thing.
Yeah.
But the chances of that are incredibly slim. They've already tried this impeachment movement, and that didn't work. We tried so many things to get him out of office, but the main thing that we really need to do, quite honestly, is change our culture in meaningful ways. Tearing down statues is an inevitable part of when revolutionary shit happens. Like, even if you look at like when these statues were put up, it was way after the Civil War. It was way after any of these people were alive to impact anything, and they were just symbolic victories. It's like, yeah, we lost the war, but we still believe in whatever it is we believe in that we think this person represents. And it's like, well, all right, dog. Honestly, I don't care. I've never cared about statues. Like statues of Christopher Columbus and stuff like that. Like, I don't care.
I don't care.
I don't care like, as a consequence of we're still, despite how much we shit on Christopher Columbus, despite how much we shit on, insert some slave owner at some point, despite that, our hatred of them does absolutely nothing. They're dead already.
You know what? And you know what was crazy about that? Like, you hit the nail on the head. Like, us ripping down these statues is doing two things for me. One is showing how much we get all, like, I don't know, butthurt over statues. Two, how much we get butthurt over statues. Like, they're statues.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they're statues and they're statues, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, they should have, in my opinion, they should have never went up. And the majority of these should have never went up. I have no idea why they went up. We could probably have a case study about each individual bust or statue and probably find somebody fucked up connected to it. But, like, even then, like, what was their idea? What was the plan, my nigga?
But you know what, though? A lot of these statues were donated by, like, Shriners or Freemasons and stuff like that. Not saying that anything is wrong with them, but I'm saying, like, the thing is, a lot of these statues were donated by some society, by some person, just because they're like, oh, this, I want to donate a statue here. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, fine. I'll spruce up the place. Like, nobody cared. Nobody cared when they put it up, and everybody got this false sense of pride about them. And the people that put them up are like, what the fuck? Nobody cares. Like, we didn't even care when we put it up. It was just something to put up, probably.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
like, oh.
And that's the thing about art and museums and things of that nature, because you have a lot of art that represents something other than what is featured. You have a lot of art which features, religious leaders, political leaders, military leaders, and it's not who that matters as much, but the reasoning behind the artist doing it in the first place matters. And in a lot of cases, it's some beautiful art of horrible fucking people. Really made by people without bad intentions necessarily, but like, sometimes they didn't have the information. They were like, okay, inspiration struck me about, this particular person because I seen this, or I had a dream about that, or this person was very important to somebody who was very important to me. And a lot of bad shit is made with good intentions. A lot of suspect shit is made with good intentions.
Yeah, and that's the problem, like, in this cancel culture. Like, we have to take a step back and realize, okay, are we canceling things just for shits and giggles? Or, like, now this whole, like, everything is a PR stunt, right? And everybody knows it. Well, I hope everybody knows this.
Well, yeah, because we're in a surveillance state, so everybody wants to be seen being on their best behavior. Right.
So all these companies, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, is saying, oh, Black Lives. No. Matter of fact, you know what I saw that pissed me off? I'm sorry. something that pissed me off was Nickelodeon. They had this thing where it was like black voices matter, black singers, black songs, some stupid crap where it was all of this stuff just to say Black Lives Matter, just to say like, oh, black people are more than just, you know, whatever. Like, can we just like Michael Che said, Black lives just matter. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say just because we sing we matter, because we dance we matter, because we act we matter. Like, no.
Well,
we just because we alive we matter, bro. That's it. I don't care about.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. And I'll wear the jacket with this. Black Lives Matter was a bad idea from a PR perspective out the gate.
It was.
It wasn't. It was very specific, and it was very passionate. It was very heartfelt, but it was bad PR. And because it was bad PR, there's more bad PR in opposition of it. All Lives Matter is even worse PR, especially in its particular usage, which is always to shout down Black Lives Matter. If it was up to me, I wouldn't have centered whether or not the lives matter. It's never a question. It's never a question to me that lives matter. I would have centered instead the forces that are responsible for these negative outcomes in these particular instances. I wouldn't even make it about the cops. I would make it about the local politicians. A better idea or a better option in that era would definitely have been something that was, again, centering the lack of oversight. Because I think a lot of times when these sorts of things happen, and then we look at the laws on the books, it's like we have all these instances of loopholes and all these protections in place that were instituted decades ago that now, decades later, have never come up for review.
That's true.
The amount of immunity that a cop has should never have even gone to the lengths that it has gone currently. The role of whether it be a patrol officer or a SWAT team member was supposed to be very specific and well defined. We reached a weird era where there's just so much, and obviously this is all in response to probably a lot of people I'm not going to name, but you can guess who made a lot of decisions in the 90s and 80s about how this stuff should all go. And, you know, we're seeing the residuals of that in all of these instances of black people, anybody being murdered, like open and shut. A lot of this shit is so open and shut, and that's why it's so hurtful, because it's open and shut. There's absolutely no excuse.
Yep.
And the only protections that exist are arbitrary ones that were invented in an era where they thought it was a good idea to give these immunities because you needed, for some reason in their minds, some hardcore crackdown on what was going on in the streets in the 80s and the 90s. And, you know, even before that, in certain areas, as a consequence of what happened post the Civil Rights era, what happened post the Civil War itself, where Emancipation Proclamation was signed, and shortly after, a number of other questionable policy changes happened, where, you know, there's no true sit down that happened to rectify and make real intersectional decisions that would have a greater outcome for everyone. I highly doubt that the majority of people who are in some way, shape, or form supporting the police support the police's immunity in cases of killing people. But they feel so compelled that they have to speak out against what they assume and are internalizing as a violent negative reaction, but it's like it's a righteously violent negative reaction.
Right. Exactly. Like, what do they expect?
You can't treat people like this and then also try to police the way that they respond to it.
Exactly. That's like for example, that's like me stabbing you in the back and then me getting upset at you getting upset with me for stabbing you in the back.
Exactly. It's
like that's not how that works.
The initial violence is never the actual incident. The initial violence is something you could center, or something that you could chalk up to something coming out of the Reagan administration, honestly.
Yeah.
In that era, not necessarily saying that, but obviously we all know that Reagan signed a lot of legislation that definitely helped lead to all of this, and Bush the same, post 9/11, where you had this highly militarized reaction around the country that, oh God, we need to protect ourselves from, what at the time was being kind of cast as this sort of invasion, or that, there was the constant use of sleeper cell.
Mm-hmm.
There was the constant use of the border as a talking point, as an entry point for potentially dirty bombs and all sorts of just nightmare scenarios that was extremely effective propaganda in getting people to relinquish a lot of rights and give a lot of rights and give a lot of funding and just overkill power to police. And I believe now we live kind of in an era where the pendulum is beginning to swing back, because it's like the biggest terrorists at this point seem to be police.
Yeah.
If we're talking people who instill fear in American citizens, like, let's not even say black people, American citizens are afraid of the police, man.
Pretty much.
Shit, people in Europe are afraid of American police.
Right.
They're looking at this shit like, bro, this is nuts. And that's not to say that, they're doing a hugely different, major, better job over there. I mean, it's a lot of layers to all of this. But you can't try to create a counter argument to something that's already crystal clear. It's already crystal clear that there needs to be reform. There needs to be some meaningful reform.
Yeah.
But
because we got to think about it. Like, it's been 30 years since Rodney King got beat openly in the street with like video cameras, and the man walked, and the cops walked away clean, like nothing even happened.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't tell me, like,
and that's the thing, because you didn't fix it back in '92. We're dealing with new shit now. Because you didn't fix it back in '92, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, the list goes on of people who've died now because we didn't fix things in '92.
Like,
and our generation feels guilt about that, despite the fact the majority of us were not even born in '92.
Weren't even born in '92.
I mean, I was born, but obviously I was an infant. There was no way in hell I would know what was going on. But within that,
so crazy.
Within that, I think that there needs to be a hard look at the history and a hard look at the timeline of how we got to this point. And we need to reach some sort of common ground. We have to. There has to be negotiation, because, as I've been saying time and time again, there's only two options when it comes to things like this. You have to either sit down and negotiate, or one side has to completely and utterly annihilate the other side. And I don't think anybody wants that. Nope. People may say and tweet they want that. They're being emotional, and they have no idea what that looks like.
Yeah, because
they can't even feed themselves if a supply line is cut off currently. They don't want war, so they need to negotiate.
Yep.
The best thing that you can do right now, as far as your friends, for anybody listening, tell them relax a little bit, just a little bit, just ever so slightly.
I mean, because let me break it down.
With the emotional shit, they should be outraged, but the emotional reactions and the bullshit need to stop. Go ahead.
Can I just break it down to them what it would look like if they decided to go to war with the government.
I don't think you got to break it down, man. I think I gave them all the game.
But
how are you going to feed yourself? That's the first question of any war. How do you feed the troops?
Listen. Well, let me break it down. Then you can nitpick it afterwards. Because the supply line, yes, food is a necessity. However, there's enough food running around here that if somebody wants to kill a squirrel, they'll kill a squirrel. They were that fucking hungry. But what I'm saying is this:
you sure about that?
The government, no, because half these niggas.
Do they know how to trap a squirrel?
That's true.
Are they willing to eat a squirrel? Do they know how to make sure that a squirrel does not necessarily have rabies, which will then turn into a whole other issue? And that's what I'm saying. Like that's 99.9% of people who want war, who keep egging on civil war, would not have the skills necessary to survive it.
I mean, okay, and this is
beyond that. There's bombs, there's drones, there's no surviving. There's no way.
Well, but that's why I wanted to explain to them in gritty detail, so that way they can calm.
I don't think you have to, bro. You just got to say one word: drones.
Yeah, Obama did order 180 of them drone strikes, but that's neither here nor there.
That's it. Drones and missiles. That's it. There's nothing else to talk about.
Yeah.
If the idea is, we're going to defund and disarm and then do it, that's still, again, stupid. So negotiations are necessary. Bringing the country back together is very necessary.
Yeah, and I've seen enough drone strikes on the dark, deep web to know that I don't want to see any of that in person. You guys don't want to either. It looks terrible. The aftermath looks worse. And I mean, I just can't think of a worse way to die, bro. Like you don't even know where it's coming from.
I mean, that's war, and that's what I'm saying. Like, nobody really wants war. Like, people can barely stomach watching these YouTube videos all day. What is it gonna be like when you can smell human flesh burning?
This is true.
What is it gonna be like when you are literally starving? Do you know what starving even feels like?
We'd have been hungry before, but niggas ain't been starving.
Do you know what dysentery feels like because there's no clean water? Vast majority of people don't. And that's why when people start talking all that war and burn shit down talk, it's like, man, dog, stop.
99% of this country will be dead within a week.
Stop. Like, just stop. Beyond that, we got kids and old people out here who are not equipped to protect themselves
at all, and they're
dying in their homes. Look, they're dying in their homes now as soon as winter hits, if DTE cuts off the heat.
Bro, you are not lying about that one. Yeah,
there's so much shit that needs to be fixed. There's so much stuff that needs to be done. There's so many places that we can put this energy into things that can make society better now. That, dog, I don't want to hear none of this. We need to go to war and burn it all down shit. I get the emotion. I get the passion, but that ain't it.
But war.
That's not it.
But war.
War sounds good based on the fact that we've seen so many instances of violence creating change. But at the same time, we know for a fact that what happens after is almost never ideal for anyone.
Yeah, it's a terrible period.
After World War II, the only place on Earth that was still like a viable, undisputed power was America. That's when we rose to power in the first place, because we largely stayed out of it. Because we were so far. Because it's so hard to really declare a war. Our advantage was the fact that we're just not next door to anything. Only thing we were next door to was Mexico and Canada, and they were all on the same fucking team.
Yep. And
but
Russia,
France, Poland, it's so many places that really suffered, that you can still go there and speak to older people there, and they will have tremendous amounts of venom and vitriol from that era still that has been passed down generationally. We we all have to, and I hate saying this because I hate when people say it because they say it in disingenuous ways. We all have to do better, but we all actually have to do better. We all actually have to do better. None of this shit is 100% certain, but I know for a fact that that option is not an option. And people have to stop pretending it is. They have to stop trying to create propaganda that in some way, shape, or form incentivizes people's thinking that way. Because every moment that we spend focused on the wrong fucking shit is a moment we spend focused on the wrong fucking shit. There's real shit that we could be doing right now. Does your community have a recycling program? Does your community have a
farm? Does it have a farm?
Beyond that, like even at the basic levels of just how you live right now, does your community have some sort of insurance? Some sort of actual insurance, not a piece of paper that says a company is going to pay you, but does your community have any insurances that its ability to sustain itself if things were to get extremely bad for you? Does it have a garden? Does it have a food distribution method in case of an emergency? In case of flooding? Let's not even talk about war. Does it have, if a tornado comes through right now, where do you go?
Most people are like, oh, it's Michigan. Michigan don't have no tornadoes. Yeah. Well,
we have periodic tornadoes. Not necessarily around Detroit as a consequence of elevation and a bunch of other factors, but like, I'm just saying, if an earthquake happens, an unprecedented earthquake, what do you do? What is your family going to do? Do you have a plan for any of that? And let's talk about something that's realistic here. If we were to get a heat wave that caused another blackout, like the major blackout that shut everything down on the East Coast about 15 years ago?
Yeah.
If we have another major blackout like that, how are you and your family going to communicate and survive?
Yep.
There's important questions that you should be asking yourself that don't have anything to do with police beyond the immediate and beyond the immediate emotional reaction that you have every single time that somebody re-traumatizes you because they're putting another dead person in front of you on film dying. That's good for making you upset, and that's good for making you keep in perspective what it is that is at stake here as far as police reform. But beyond police reform, there's reform across the board that needs to happen in all communities and not just a black one.
Facts.
But either way, let's get away from that. And
so
I didn't want to go into any dark shit. but
Mike,
keep ending up there.
Real quick. So I was my buddy tagged me in a Warzone video on Facebook. There's an Easter egg bunker in Warzone where you gotta go to this certain spot and you gotta pick up the phone, listen to the phone ring, and listen to the person on the other end speaking Russian, and they're gonna speak these numbers, and those numbers correspond to where these other cell phones or telephones are. And then when you get to the last one, you get the access code to go into Bunker 11. And in that bunker, you got all the miniguns and stuff like that. So we thought about doing it, but it's like it's too risky. And these circles lately have been being real crappy, so we're not even going to try it.
That's like the really fun shit as far as like game design shit that I would really be into. But as you said, there's so much other stuff going on with Warzone that you can't really prioritize that. Like you can, but it's not going to win you the match, I don't think.
Yeah, and it's not going to win you the match. Number one, it's going to make it so that you're quitting the game because you're losing. Because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to make it to all 3 spots, and people are camping by Bunker 11 because they know that, you know, that's where all the good stuff is. So as soon as you open it up, they come out of nowhere and shoot you down. So it's like, it's a lot of stuff to it. Like, you know, if you can get it, good. But, you know, it's Warzone. I love Warzone. I play it faithfully. You know, I rank up really quickly. I love it because I just don't want to spend $60 for Modern Warfare right now. And everybody's like, "Oh, you should get Modern Warfare," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm not spending $60 for Modern Warfare. That's too much money."
Yeah, I mean, yeah. That's a whole other thing with Call of Duty in particular, where like the focus is multiplayer, but like because Warzone is such a thing that so many people have access to, you're now kind of pulled out of traditional multiplayer to play Warzone because that's what everybody can do, so that's what everybody is doing. And that's what I don't like about like the games as a service thing, because you kind of have to follow the crowd now.
Yeah.
You can play as you want, but there's so many more incentives to do what everybody else is doing that there's no point. Like you don't see anybody streaming Fortnite campaign at all. Like you don't see anybody streaming Fortnite campaign. Initially, when it was just a campaign, you saw that a lot.
Yeah.
But as soon as multiplayer came out, that shit went bye-bye. I don't think I've ever seen anybody stream it ever since.
Really?
Since multiplayer came out, hell no.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Multiplayer. I'm thinking about Call of Duty still. Yeah, you're talking about
oh, no. I'm positive there's still people that are like hardcore Call of Duty fans who are playing the campaign of Call of Duty. But like the Fortnite campaign, absolutely not.
I didn't know Fortnite had a campaign.
That's the wild part. Fortnite was only campaign at first. Like
really?
It was only people. It was because it's co-op. So like it was 4 people, and you built the bases, and it was zombies. The storm is where the zombies come from.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
So, you know, that happened, but it was like, okay, we can either pay for the campaign, or we can play multiplayer for free. Everybody wound up playing multiplayer. It was just free, and all your friends was on it. You can't beat free, man.
Yeah, because Apex is still free, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like people realize, like people will really pay for these cosmetics. They don't got charged for the game. They're really gonna pay for these cosmetics.
Not me. I'll just level up like a normal fucking person.
But you gotta pay for the battle pass so that you can level up and get shit at a decent rate, though.
I'm good. Like, I got to level. I'm at level
GTA Online is so big.
Oh my god, GTA Online! I don't even play it no more because it's like, what's the point? Like every time I get on there, I always get killed. So it's like I'm over it.
New experiences, the mission variety, etc.
But even then with that too, you got to have a good group of people to play the missions with.
You do. And I mean, that's why I'm really trying to get black people to like get onto Discord and get onto Twitch.
Yeah.
At some point. Probably not today, but at some point for sure.
Where's everybody else at?
For the podcast?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like as long as I'm here, that's the only thing that really matters.
Yeah, that's true.
Like it's cool. Like it's fun to have everybody on here, but we don't wind up talking about shit because it's just so much fun. Like we covered more in this hour than I feel like we covered in episode 0. Because everybody was just cracking jokes. Like it was really fucking fun to listen to. Oh, that's crazy, dog. I still listen to that shit and laugh my ass off.
eating ass in the first 10 minutes of the episode. It was terrible.
That was the first 10 seconds of the episode. What are you talking about? You know how I'm cut. You know what it is over here. First 10 seconds. We didn't waste no time. We got right to the real topics.
The real topic at hand is.
But no, we got into existentialism like 2 minutes later. It's cool. That's what it's about. It's about balance.
It's always about a good, healthy balance.
That's true. I mean, we are almost at an hour here, so this is where I kind of want to start wrapping the episodes up.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Anything else you wanted to get off?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, I'm gonna talk about some shit.
Go ahead.
For the first time in ever.
I'll listen. I'm smoking a nice. I'm smoking a nice joint, so I'm good. I've been smoking. It's like my third joint of the podcast.
That's true. All right. Well, I'm gonna take another unfortunate, probably wrong side of history. In this whole, the new iPhones are gonna ship without a charger. Bro, I don't know anybody who uses the default charger. As long as that shit come with a new cord, I don't really care about the charger. Nobody uses. I don't think anybody uses the little power brick that comes with the phones anymore. Do you use yours?
I use mine, but I also have another one too. I have like 3 adapters for.
But that's the thing. I think the main reason that they're not doing it is because they realize everybody has like 6 of them bitches just sitting around.
Right. And
beyond that, like they have them built into the walls of your house now. Like if you move into a new apartment, chances are it has USB built right into the outlet.
This is true.
Like they had new boxes in the house we're in, and I don't have to change nothing. Just plug it right in. I don't need a brick. Other than that, plugging into the had a desktop USB hub that's just in the living room. As far as the car charger, like I already have a car charger. You get one car charger, and that's just gonna last you until.
That's gonna last you for a couple cars. Matter of fact.
Yeah. So, I don't mind. Like I have a big problem with consumer waste, like on a moral level. I try my best to not even like buy processed foods anymore. Like I prefer to just make shit. And at some point I'm gonna transition. At some point I'm gonna transition to really like just like only getting meat at a butcher. Preferably having it wrapped in paper, as little plastic, as little adhesive, as little.
Now, I will say that butcher bacon is probably the best cut bacon, and butcher ground beef is the best ground beef versus packaged stuff.
Oh hell yeah!
Even though. Well, the reason, like, the packaged stuff is the same as the butcher stuff, but the packaged stuff is, like, a few days old. So it's, like, it's always best to get your ground beef and your bacon from the butcher.
Man, I'll go one step further and say, like, anything that you get, ideally, you want to get out the case at the butcher.
This is true.
Ideally.
Fish, all
of that. Like, prepackaged is great because it's convenient. But, like, with everything in slow motion right now, I don't give a fuck about convenience. I'm not going nowhere.
I ain't got shit to do.
I ain't got shit to do. Go ahead, wrap it up. Cut it the way I like. Like that's the biggest, man. You can get it cut exactly how you want it to get it cut.
And you can sit there and talk with the butcher to get to know where everything came from if you go to a good butcher.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how well Meyer.
I'll make sure I'm at the bougie markets, bro.
Yeah, you gotta
have at least step 3. You know the step system they be having?
Yeah.
Hey, bro. Hey, look. It's marketing, but it's a good ass feeling to know that whatever it is that you're purchasing is gonna be some fire. Like people killed them for it, but at the same time, like that's the same thing we did when I was selling mid way back when. And had to alert niggas in advance, like, yo, this is not no exotic shit. This is just regular, mid-grade, will get you high weed.
No, that's the best weed. Like, if it's
like the prestige of knowing that you're getting some good shit, though, like, when it comes to anything, is just, it feels good. It feels good to know that, you know.
Oh,
and beyond that, like, the humane part of it all, like, makes me feel better. I would like to know that, I'm not getting beef from these factories, from these viral videos I'm constantly seeing where the cows are emaciated and eating each other. I would prefer that. I would prefer that it be a cow that lived a happy life, got fat, got chopped up, and put on my plate.
Right. I still want to eat meat.
Right.
I don't care.
I don't care. I care about. Here's the thing. For some reason, vegans think that we don't care about animal suffering. I care about animal suffering. If it's a farm and every so often, every Tuesday, that motherfucker likes to take out some stress by like gouging the eye out of a cow. No, I don't want any of that shit.
Right. That was, oh my God, that was kind of gruesome. Jesus Christ.
I'm saying, like, that's what they think, like, oh, we don't care. Yeah, I kind of do. When I seen the videos, I wasn't like, I'm going to stop eating beef. I was like, no, I'm not eating beef there. You can't, you shouldn't be doing that shit.
I'm not eating that beef.
If I don't believe, I'm not endorsing that kind of cruelty.
Right.
I can't endorse that kind of cruelty. Oh, but you'll still eat them? Yes, I'll still eat them, but god damn, I don't want them to be tortured, my nigga.
Right. Give me an A5 Wagyu steak that's been grass-fed, rubbed its belly since it's been born.
With sake. With top shelf sake.
With top shelf sake.
Treat the cow that I ate properly so that it can treat me properly as it nourishes me. Like I'm very thankful for the fact that I don't have to raise and kill cows. But at the same time, I don't want anybody raising and killing cows to just fuck the cow up.
Psychology, like whatever the word is.
Well, I mean, nobody wants anything from a psychopath. Like, bro, if a nigga tells you, like, I got an iPad Pro for you and it's going to be 400 brand new out the box, 512 gigabytes, but I just stabbed a bitch in the alley, you're not going to buy the iPad.
I don't know, dog.
I'm not buying the iPad.
What they got to do with me?
They got everything to do with me.
He ain't about to kill me. He killed her.
You go buy the iPad, he go track you down and fucking stab your cat to death.
Okay, only if the iPad is
only if. See, that's what I'm saying. I can't, bro. I'm not taking. I don't want to fuck with nothing like that for that reason.
But why would they say that I just stabbed the bitch for it,
bro? That's not. It's a hypothetical. It's not supposed to make sense.
Okay,
it's just supposed to be a matter of you don't buy shit from psychopaths. I'm not buying anything from a psychopath if I can help it. I don't want to support your psychotic pathy.
Dog.
That's not the word, but I just used it.
Psychotic pathy.
I'm not promoting the psychopath. That's gonna be the name of the episode. Psychopathy and shit.
Yep.
Speaking of Psycho-Pass is a good ass anime. You should watch it. I think you would be interested in that. Psycho-Pass. It's on a bunch of shit. I think it's on Hulu.
All right. You know what anime that I'll go back and watch and I still kind of get teary eyed about? Assassination Classroom. No, Assassination Classroom. I enjoyed that anime. I really enjoyed that one. That was a good one.
I started that. I still gotta really like commit to it. My problem is that with a lot of like shonen anime or shonen-esque anime is that I just can't. I see the amount of episodes and I'm just like, I don't have time for this shit.
But it's only 2 seasons, bro. It's only 2 seasons. So it's like
I know, but like some of the best series I've ever seen are like 6 episodes, 13 episodes, 10 episodes.
This is true.
Fooly Cooly, Devilman. There was a show I was watching it's on Amazon Prime called Babylon. It's really intriguing for like the first 3 episodes, and then it just goes completely off the rails. I have no idea. It was very clear to me that the author fell out of love with this story and was just like, well, I'm just going to make everybody else suffer with this ending. Because it didn't even have an ending. It's like intriguing concept setup, Act 1, Act 2, rising action, Act 3, we're finally getting there, boys, and then it just ends before there's any resolution. You don't even really know what happens to everybody.
I mean,
but the first 2 or 3 episodes are so fucking intriguing, dog. Like the concepts and how believable like some of the reactions to the characters are, despite it being some kind of unrealistic shit, but completely within the realm of possibility. It's not likely, but it's possible. It's absolutely 100% possible. It's just not likely. But yeah, Babylon is if you just want to watch half of it and then not watch the other half to not piss yourself off.
That's the one to watch.
That's the one to watch. Babylon on Amazon Prime. And like I said, Psycho-Pass is really good. Season 2 kind of goes some places, but like, There's also a couple of movies that are pretty good. Yeah. Other than that, I think that's about it. I don't really got shit else.
Yeah, me either.
Any shout outs you wanted to do? Any acknowledgements?
Do a big shout out to Soundproof Detroit. Big shout out to Shitpost Boys. Big shout out to everybody in and involved with Shitpost Boys. Big shout out to my wife. And shout out to everybody listening in.
For sure. All right. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm not going to do no fancy outro that's going to have people here for 3 more minutes. I just want everybody to be safe and not try to pretend like this is normal life again, because it's not. Wear your mask, social distance. Don't go nowhere unless you absolutely have to. Keep people close. Like, we're in a really like emotionally charged, polarizing era, and it's very easy to just be like, well, I'm not just gonna fuck with them anymore because they're not on the same shit I'm on. But not everybody's gonna get there at the same time. And that's important to acknowledge and keep in mind. People are only human. You don't really know what everybody's going through. Some of your best friends are going through some shit they're not able to even put into words just yet. So, just be kind, be patient with people. That's the least we can fucking do. Other than that, just, keep living out here. Peace.
Yeah.
Shitpost Boys podcast. Yeah. Gotta give them a little energy at the end.